Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump continues threatening trade partners with import tariffs. Canada is the one at the receiving end this time around. Trump says Canada's taxes and barrier are too high, warning that its cars would be targeted with levies if Ottawa does not reach a deal with Washington. He, however, expressed satisfaction at how negotiations have been taking place with Mexico. The three countries are signatories to the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. Trump has been critical of the agreement since his election campaign in 2016. He says the accord does not serve America's interests and must be renegotiated. Trump has already imposed high tariffs on aluminum and steel imports from Canada, causing retaliatory measures from Ottawa. The American president has also initiated a tariff war with China, Europe, and most recently, Turkey. Over to Ontario, joined by Jason Unruhe, political commentator. Thank you so much for being with us. What is going on? I mean, we see a new country added to a tariff war or a sanction regime every day coming out of the United States. What do you think Donald Trump is doing? What's the goal in all of this?
Well, the goal of this is really to wedge a better place in the world for American trade. I mean, far from carrying out, the actual intention of trade agreements that is mutually beneficial, contracts that could help benefit both economies, Trump has instead decided that he's just going to make sure that it is the U.S. that remains in the purely advantageous position. Take this situation with Canada, for example. What Trump is actually looking for is a reduction in Canadian tariffs on dairy that comes in from the United States. So Canada has a supply management system where X amount of dairy products can come in from the United States. Once it goes over a certain amount, then tariffs are placed on it. Right now, the United States has a massive glut in dairy products, particularly milk, due to sanctions that have been placed, tariffs that have been placed on other things, other trade agreements that were sabotaged, and largely this issue was going to be dealt with in the TPP, but was abandoned by Trump himself. What Trump is looking for is to remove these, because the United States can't send it anywhere else. And milk has a very limited life shelf, so it's basically Canada where it has to go. So what they're trying to do is use the auto industry to try to pressure Canada into getting rid of much of the government control over the dairy industry inside of Canada, in order to be able to sell off the excess milk that has been building up in the United States and has been hurting dairy farmers in the U.S. In other words, Trump is trying to manipulate trade relations between countries to try to make up for some of the failures that he himself has suffered as a result of his orientation towards other countries in terms of trade. And that's really what this is about. And he knows that attacking the Canadian auto industry is the right thing to go if you're trying to bully Canada economically, because any kind of restriction on that would definitely have a serious negative effect.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us out of Ontario. This is Jason Unruhe, political commentator.